Hello, friends, and welcome into the Marriage Talk Podcast. Great to have you with us. Thank you for subscribing and hopefully sharing the link with other couples in your world. And here we are in the summer months when life gets crazy because it's vacation time, it's graduation season, it's all the different things that we love so much, especially here in the state of Michigan where we are based. And we just want to let you know we're still here all throughout the summer. Love to have you stay connected with us. And we want to hear from you with the things you would like us to discuss. Yes, Jay and Laura and myself, we can come up with topics, but maybe there's something that's heavy on your heart that you have struggled with, or you have some friends or some family members that are going through this particular issue. Send that to us. Go on our social media, go onto Facebook, or send us an email. You'll have the link right there in the podcast notes. We would like to shape the conversations on this podcast according to the things that are important to you. So please do reach out. And with that, we'll welcome in Jay and Laura to the program, because part of that reaching out and part of what you two have done through your ministry in all these years is a form of coaching, marriage coaching. Now, I should say this at the very outset, that when I hear coaching, I hear my 8th grade football coach with that whistle and making me run laps every time I mess something up. So is that what you
Yes, for 10 seconds now, yes.
Yeah, Jay walks around with a whistle around his neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what our premise is this, Bill, is there are couples that need counseling. That's very, they've walked into some deep weeds and they need some help. Not every couple needs a counselor, but we believe every couple needs a coach. And liken it to sports, which we do so often here, even the greatest of all time had coaches that poured into them, that helped them become the greatest of all time. And so our coaching program is not counseling. It is really an opportunity we help you dissect your marriage, looking at the fundamentals of marriage and how well you do the fundamentals. And then after we dissect you gently, we rebuild it back up into a purpose that your marriage has.
Yeah, the whole point of our coaching is to give your marriage a plan, a purpose, and passion. And so that really is what our goal is for our coaching program.
And so if you want that in your marriage, a plan, oh, jeepers, yeah, more than just, throwing up monkey dust and hoping it sticks, a purpose, in other words, where you're going as a couple, and then a plan to get there. That's really what a passion to enact the plan. That's right. That's right. The P's are getting.
There's no running laps. There's no drop and give me 50 push-ups, right? I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yes, it's all enjoyable.
No, I make Jay do 50 push-ups.
Nice.
But no, not in the coaching program.
I asked Laura how many push-ups she could do, and she said 5. And I said, well, I can do 7 if they're the orange kind that come from the freezer. I can do 7 at a time.
Those are delicious.
Those things are disgusting. They're not delicious. What?
Back in the day, they were great.
Yeah, I'm not saying on a daily basis, but back as a kid, the push-ups were gold. I mean, I love
the bomb pop, red, white, and blue little spaceship looking things. That's what I like.
Wow, we digress.
We digress.
Because there's no bomb pops in the coaching either.
Right. In a coaching session or in a coaching schedule, I'm wondering how often finances take center stage as a source of conflict that the coaches have to help the couples work through, that tension that can come with all those things related to money. Is that near the top of the list?
I would say it depends on the couple. One of the sessions that we do in our coaching program is your conflict style. So we do talk about conflict, and money is a big, I would say, we're always saying there's big 3 that you're going to have in your marriage that you're going to argue about. And one of those is money. The other is family, and the other is intimacy. So money is definitely,
and what's interesting is money is universal, whether you have money or don't have money, money's an issue.
And it's all about, I would say a lot of the conflict is, one of you wants to budget, one of you doesn't. Doesn't, that would be what it is here. Sticks to the budget. How do we spend our money? What do we spend our money on? I think a lot of couples, they do, we need to save our money. We need to do this, we need to do that. But then here's your allowance or whatever, and you spend it here and you spend it here, and there's that conflict there as well. And so that what we talk about in coaching is conflict style. How do you conflict
about
and
money,
understanding
about sex,
each other's
about
conflict
family.
style?
Right. Because money is a big issue. It is. We don't delve into their personal finances any more than we delve into their sex life. We let them delve into that stuff. We do talk about all of that.
And we point them towards people who might be able to help them better with finances and budgeting, if that's a big issue, like Dave Ramsey or whatever it might be. We try and point them towards that. And in our coaching, we stay more focused on the conflict style. Even though you're conflicting in these areas, what's your style and how can you rectify it that way?
It seems like there would be a connective tissue between so many parts of life and stress and tension. So we talked briefly about finances, but we also can look at like life transitions. So you're moving jobs, you're moving houses, your aging parents are requiring more care, and maybe that all connects back to the financial stress that you're. What's the connective tissue like when you sit down and you look at the stresses that dynamic within a couple, as you try to kind of get a handle on how to help them through tension, for lack of a better word?
Well, it's interesting if you look back on your wedding day, and I think all of us can still remember our wedding day with fond memories. We did not stand at the altar thinking about the 8,526 transitions that were about to take place in our life over the next 20, 30 years. Marriage is all about transitions. I mean, obviously, you get married, you now start living with someone you've never lived with before. Even if you have lived with them before, you're now in a whole different world because you've made a commitment to each other. That's forever. Then kids come along, another major, huge transition. Job changes, job promotions, job loss, illness, as you said, aging parents. And I don't think we stand at the altar going, oh, I can't wait for all of these transitions because they're going to be so much fun. No, but we've got to learn to identify those and then learn how to walk through those, because they can either become, as we said before, deep weeds, or they can become triumphs that we have in our marriage. We can look back and we go, we did a really good job with that. And we did a really good job as we transitioned into this job. I think a lot of what it comes from, and most people, again, don't think of this, is family of origin. You can grow up in the same town, on the same street, but you're coming from two totally different families. And how you conflict, how you budget, how you your lifestyle is going to be different, and you've got to mesh these two lifestyles together, and that's really the challenge.
Our coaching program basically takes a couple through 5 different areas of your life and your marriage, your social, your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual. So in our online on-demand program, so we have different coaching programs. In that program, a couple can do it online on demand. So it's a video series where we take them through those 6 areas, talk about those 6 areas, tools to use in those areas, and then we move into creating a purpose for your marriage. And then in the private coaching, Jay and I privately coach couples via Zoom, and we can delve into more of those particular, we are particularly right now going through a stressful time because we do not know how to manage our finances, or we are going through a crisis right now because we have had a death of a loved one and we don't know how to handle it and we can't handle each other. So those kinds of things. So there's 2 different areas where we can do privately, where we can delve into more of those specific stresses, or the online on demand, where a couple goes through the program at their own pace, at their own convenience.
And it's funny because some of the couples that have done the online on demand have talked about how we did this once a week at our kitchen table after the kids went to bed. And it was wonderful because there was no stress. There was no big, oh, what's coming next? And really, if you know us, you know that that's not our style. We're not going to drop any bombs. We're not going to do anything. But one couple that we did private coaching with, they worked together. And what was causing stress in their marriage was their super successful business.
Okay.
They were watching their business
Explode.
was exploding, but they realized, both of them realized, that it was taking away from their marriage. And it was such a mature understanding of, we don't want to lose the business, but more importantly, we don't want to lose us.
And they were wanting to start a family. And so they knew they needed to get some of these boundaries in place before they moved into that next transition in their marriage.
What it really, and she just said the right word. We help you create healthy boundaries, because when you have those healthy boundaries, you can play the game to the full extent. Again, football's an analogy. If you stick between the lines, guess what? You could be as creative as Barry Sanders, for crying out loud, and make people miss you left and right. Or you can run over them like, some other running backs do. But the bottom line is, you got to stay within those boundaries to play the game. So we help you understand your boundaries that God has given to your marriage.
So you're talking to couples who have the desire to do things in a better way, but perhaps need help putting a plan together, right?
Yes.
It's the strategy session.
Yes. Because we all stood at the altar, and we had these wonderful, wonderful dreams and aspirations and thoughts about building a life with this wonderful person that God's gifted us with. But the nuts and bolts of everyday life are often hard. It's like putting a piece of IKEA furniture together. It's like, are you kidding me? This is impossible. But 30 years of working with marriages, 40 years of our own marriage. Honestly, how this coaching evolved was, after 10 years of marriage, we looked at each other and we said, we're not on the same page. And so we created this tool for ourselves. I mean, it was something we put together for ourselves. Let's look at these different areas of our life and let's create a plan for that.
And what happens, and if we go back to that, we stay with that sports coaching analogy. Sometimes you just need an objective eyeball.
Yeah.
I just think of, we all love to play golf. Golf is a big deal for all three of us. And for Jay and I, like right now, I can't get off the tee and it's driving me insane.
Can you tell?
Insane, because I am a good driver of the ball. I mean, I'm always like, yes, look how far I went. And right now I can't do it. So I need an objective eye to look and see what I'm doing.
And I told her she's just way too pretty to be hitting the ball that far.
So it's the same thing in marriage. Sometimes you just need an objective eye to look from the outside in and see, you know what, maybe you just need to use this tool or that tool, or tweak this or tweak that, or here's what we can see is going on. What do you think? And that really is how the coaching really helps a couple move along that journey of, we need to get on the same page.
Here's a perfect example that we had from a private coaching. The couple were both remarried. It was a second marriage for both. She has been a Christian her entire life. He had just become a Christian within the last year. And she was frustrated because he was not the spiritual leader in the home. And we just had to say, now listen, that is totally unfair. The poor guy's been a Christian for a year. What's interesting is his best friend was the pastor, is their pastor. The pastor has them doing book studies together. And we finally had to say, do you know how many women would salivate to know that their husband's best friend is their pastor and that they're doing book studies with their pastor? There are women all over this country that would die for that. Give him time to develop into that spiritual leader. And it was like a light bulb for her because she
didn't really think
wanted
about it.
She wanted that spiritual leadership, but she knew she had to let it develop. And so we were able to point that out and help them see that he's on the path. Just give him time to get down the path of ways.
And part of the management of expectations probably, I mean, I'm not a coach, but probably brings us back to the idea of patience, right? So you have something that you desire in your spouse, and because you have thought of it and desire it, the temptation can be that it should happen like with a snap of fingers. And these things take time. So how much of coaching is the introduction of the idea of, hey, let's get the journey started, but it's going to take a while?
One of the things we encourage the couples to do once they've developed their purpose statement, so to speak, in other words, what they want to be all about, is to get a nice big plaque and do it in calligraphy or whatever mode you want, and frame it and put it somewhere. Maybe it's in your bedroom, maybe it's in your study, maybe it's in your office, but put it somewhere where you're going to see it every once in a while to remind yourself, this is where we're going. We're not there yet, but this is where we ultimately want to be. And unfortunately, again, a sports analogy, to become prolific at something, sports psychologists say you have to make a concerted effort to put in 10,000 hours of concentrated practice to become prolific at something. So 10,000 hours of shooting free throws.
So I will never be prolific at golf.
No, 10,000 hours of 10,000 hours in the pool, the swimming pool, whatever it is, you need time. And unfortunately, in marriage, if we were to spend an hour a day, that's a lot of time, but focused on our marriage, an hour a day, it would take us 27 years to become prolific. So, most of us don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of God's plan, is that there's never going to be a destination. We know where we want to go, but it's all about getting there and the process of supporting each other while you travel.
Almost certainly there's somebody in our audience today who is hurting. They are dealing with a broken trust relationship, whether it's infidelity or somebody's promise was not kept, and that kind of heartbreak or heartache comes into a coaching session because they're wondering if they should even try, or is this thing just over with? So what's the process of rebuilding trust look like?
We worked with several couples just like that over the years, and some of it has been successful and some of it hasn't. And it just depends on the couple. For a lot of them, that there has been infidelity, broken trust to that extreme. It depends on whether they're willing to work and fight for it. And a lot of times one of them comes in and says, I'm already done, but I'm here, so I'll work at it. I'll try, I'll see what happens. And then we've had some that have come in and said, you know what? I realize I was wrong. I realize I'm a part of the problem, the one who didn't have there's always two sides to every story. And even in infidelity, there's two sides to every story. Even though there's one that is the infidel, the one that made this happen, there's still another side that some expectation or something isn't being met. And so really it's just the hashing out of that. The building of trust comes every day, moment by moment. And it's hard work. It's a lot of work. But if both parties are willing to work on it and realize that is going to be a journey and it is going to take a lot of time, and if you're both willing to work on it, it can happen. We've seen it happen time and time and time again, but we've also seen the other side where one of them's already checked out and said, you know what? I don't want to do the hard work.
Right. I think the key for those that make it, for those who have had trust broken, we've never had infidelity in our marriage, but we've had trust broken. We've had promises that were made that were not fulfilled. We've had guarantees made that were not guaranteed. We've had trust broken in our marriage. I think the key, no matter what level of trust it is do you see in your spouse a contrite heart? Someone who is genuinely sorry for what happened. I think that is really important. And I think that contrite heart, while it's easy to see, it's not. Because sometimes people can fake that sorrow, that agony, but then there's other times where you go, no, I truly believe that they're sorry for what they did. And it's the beginning of forgiveness. And in James, the 5th chapter, verse 16, we read, we forgive so that we might be healed. And that's such a counter cultural idea. I'm going to forgive you so that I can be healed. no, I'm forgiving you and I'm letting you off the hook. No, you're not. You're beginning the process of reconciliation. And that reconciliation is not only for your spouse, but also for you.
Let's put some nuts and bolts to how the coaching process begins, because we have listeners that are all over the country, and they're thinking, well, I'm not flying into Michigan to sit down on a weekly basis. So you mentioned, Laura mentioned briefly that some of the sessions that you do are via Zoom. And then obviously, if somebody's proximity is a bit closer, then perhaps you can do all that in person. But why don't you kind of take us through the next steps for somebody listening who says, that's kind of what we need?
Yeah, if there's a listener or somebody who's watching this on YouTube and you say, you know what, we really want to do this. Well, we have what we have on our website at jayandlaura.com. And I know this will be in our show notes. We can get that in there. At jayandlaura.com, you just hit the coaching tab and you're going to be taken to several different options. The one option we're going to focus on right now is the online on demand, where you and your spouse can do this at your own convenience. And we are actually going to give you a code, TMT June, the Marriage Talk June.
All caps.
So from now till the end of June, you can get that for 75% off or $150 off. It's on the website. It's $198. And if you would like to go through the coaching program, you can get it for $48 right now. There is an option for private coaching, which we can do all via Zoom if you're somewhere outside of our current living situation, if you're not close by.
Geographically,
I couldn't think of that word, geographic. But if you are within the state of Michigan and close by and you would want to do that privately, we can also talk about that as well. We have done all of the above, but right now we're focusing on that online on demand with our special TMT June.
TMT June, you get $150 off. Normally $189 or $198 program for $48.
Wow.
And summertime's a perfect time to do this because you don't have to do it every week, but you can do it between now and the end of summer, and boom, be ready to rock.
You just purchase this before the end of June. You can do it whenever you want. That's the whole point, is that it's online on demand.
Well, it's a great place to start, and that's a really good value. So hopefully we'll have some folks that are thinking, you know what, not only do we need this, but it's too good of a deal for us to pass up. And again, all that information is in both the notes to the podcast and the video and at jayandlaura.com. Appreciate you guys having presented sort of that opportunity, because for the couples who are kind of, they may not be going nose to nose in conflict, but they know that they're not everything that the Lord would have them be. Perhaps the coaching is what can take that to the next step. So we'll hopefully see some folks take advantage of that. Appreciate you all being a part of our world. And remember, as I said at the outset to today's episode, we would love to hear from you with suggestions for what you'd like to hear discussed on this podcast. So just go to our Facebook page or go into the website at marriagetalk.org and leave us a note, send us an email. One way or another, you can get this question to us, and we would love to, whether it's anonymously presented or if you don't mind us saying, hey, Bill and Ellen would like to discuss this. We would love to have that be the focal point of the podcast in the days ahead. So thanks much for listening. We'll talk to you again next time on Marriage Talk.